Guess who's back? Back again. It's Adam Duvall back in Atlanta. He's going to be a platoon partner with Jarred Kelenic. Logan Whaley going to talk about that today on this episode of the Chopaholic on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Welcome in. Been a while. Crossover season just about over for both of us. Actually, LSU got knocked out of the SEC tournament today. We got to wait to see if they get an NIT bid. Arkansas State, though, for those that don't know, Logan made it to the title game. Just what a run, though. That was a nice little run through the Sun Belt tournament. So, first off, how did you enjoy working in the just horrible, horrible confines of Pensacola, Florida?
I know. I mean, my hotel being right on the beach, it really, someone's got to do it, right? Someone's got to do the job. But it was amazing. Got to cover a buzzer beater that made it to Sports Center's top 10. Scott Van Pelt's talking about it. Like, for an SEC program, like you're used to those things. But when you're covering a Sun Belt team, you don't get that very often. So
hey, we love the Sun Belt on the Crowded Booth.
Yeah,
We're big Sun Belt stands.
Well, and while you're waiting for potential NIT bid, I'm waiting for like potential CBI or CIT bid. So
there you go.
We'll see.
We'll see what they do. And then as we're recording this, college football has said, hey, we're going to go to a 14-team playoff in 2026. So we're going to have another show talking about that later in the week.
By the way,
go ahead.
Just interject real quick. Wait, when you were doing the intro and you said, guess who's back again, I thought you were referring to our podcast because we have not done this in a while.
Yeah, it's been like 2 weeks. Like it's
been a minute.
It's been a minute. But you know what? Today's a little more casual. You've got the not a sponsor. You've got the Nukes Eatery Cup, and I've got the Starbucks little freeze whatever fresh juice thing that I've got in my hand right here. And I might look homeless because I'm rocking this little Carhartt tee. But hey, they are a sponsor right here, Cajun Cousins. Okay. Logan, have you ever had some seriously good like down home Cajun cooking?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but probably not like this.
Oh man, it's phenomenal. Now look, they'll come to you. They throw a big catering company. They'll come and get you with a little low country boil, whether that's jambalaya, homemade by the way, or just crawfish season, which is in full force. And it's one of the great things I love about living in Louisiana. It's been great. And so while they're not an official sponsor of the Chopaholic, they are of the Crowded Booth. And man, we appreciate it. And then obviously, if you're watching this in Columbus, you got to go check out Cook's Place. Great. Logan, do you know? And this might offend some people. Do you know what a scrambled dog is?
A scrambled dog.
You don't know, do you? Okay. A scrambled dog is a hot dog with a bed of chili on top, some cheese, little oyster crackers. I prefer mine to go also with mustard and maybe some onions as well. People get, they kind of do different things. But what I'm sitting here telling you is that Cook's Place there in Columbus does a fantastic job. Columbus is the home of the scrambled dog. And man, it is quite the meal. We actually used to do shows there, when I was back in Columbus. So anytime I go back, I got to go check them out. And they are another sponsor of the show. So, but yeah, so I'm rocking a homeless looking tee, but I mean, it is what it is. Logan looks so much better than I do on this fine Thursday. And Logan, for the people who like to play video games, MLB The Show drops midnight tonight, and I'll be on. I'm sure you'll be on.
I'll be on, yeah.
Grinding to get that, 90 overall Craig Kimbrell that just dropped as the I'll probably settle for the 81 overall Mike Cameron on the White Sox team set. That's what I'll have to get first. But hey, it's going to be fun.
Johan Santana's in the game, and I had no idea until like yesterday that he was in the game. I've done a horrible job keeping up.
I'm so pumped for it, though. I'm so pumped for it. Well, let's actually 4 minutes into this podcast talk about what we're talking about. The Atlanta Braves bring back Adam Duvall. Logan, your thoughts as social media, I took to it and saw some people that were not liking it. They said we'd rather have Michael A. Taylor. I've got several thoughts on why I think that this is a better signing than Michael A. Taylor. For me, it starts with clubhouse and chemistry fit. So take it away. What do you think about Atlanta bringing back Adam Duvall?
Obviously, it's a familiar face, right? And I think that you look back in the past several years. And you look at some of the big Braves moments, and Duvall has been a part of some of them, right? You think about the grand slam he hit in the World Series. I believe it was Game 5, first inning, and I look back at that. If the Braves win that game, you're talking about that home run more than you're talking about the Soler home run, right? And so I look at that. I also look at, and again, it's low risk, right? $3 million, it's nothing. But I also think too, this is, and again, I know Anthopoulos mentioned that this didn't really have anything to do with Jarred Kelenic, and they're still very optimistic about Jarred Kelenic.
Yeah.
But I look at this as maybe some smoke signals that maybe they're just a tad bit concerned with how Kelenic is playing this spring.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about Kelenic because he has not been great this spring, and there's no doubt about that. But I think for the more conservative side of the fan base that's not going to overreact, and I certainly kind of sit in that sentiment, has been they're obviously working on his swing, and maybe this coaching staff, the analytics staff, is trying to sit here and say, hey, we not only just want to work on it, we need to recreate some things. And for a guy that's played, and look, you go back to when the Mets traded him for Cano and Edwin Diaz, Logan, this is a situation of a guy who's one of the top prospects in baseball. Like, he was one of the more coveted names in baseball. Everything that he has done, every single step of the way, has been good enough. So this is some of the first time he's seen some adversity, and now he's having to potentially relearn some stuff. I think it's understandable that he might be struggling. It's also understandable of why Atlanta would want to bring in a guy like Adam Duvall. You mentioned the familiarity aspect. Yes, the Braves understand this might not be the 2021 version, but you were reading off some stats, and I'll let you kind of go back to that if you want to. He was solid in limited playing time with Boston. Now, he did get hurt, and I'll equate it back to MLB The Show. I'm pretty sure he had a month of the April month card last season, or some type of card last good. But he started, got hurt, and not to say that he was the only piece to that offensive puzzle, but he was a big piece. And when he got hurt, Boston struggled significantly. So I don't think that this is a signing of saying we're trying to recapture some old magic. I think it's saying, hey, this guy's a great locker room fit. He understands the Braves way and what we want to do. And he's a perfect platoon partner in the sense of he's going to help Kelenic coming along. Because Duvall's a guy, too, that experienced some adversity early in his career. Obviously, everyone knows the diabetes story, that he had as a young player. But he really didn't kind of blossom into the Adam Duvall, I would say, till his late 20s, early 30s. I mean, he's 35 now, but kind of your thoughts on what do you feel like the expectation is for Duvall? Mark Bowman did put it's a strict platoon. I think that helps Kelenic.
I agree with you. I think that, it takes the pressure. And again, you always felt with Kelenic coming here that the pressure would be off of him anyway because of the lineup that he's going to be in, right? Because from top to bottom, it's to me it's the best lineup in baseball. Like top to bottom, and
depth
wise, absolutely. Kelenic, to me, there's no pressure with that. And adding in someone like Duvall, I think that takes the pressure off even more. He's a veteran, someone who's been there, as you've mentioned, and that helps Kelenic in a big way because you look at that outfield as a whole. You've got guys who are in their prime or about to be entering their prime with Harris and with Koon, obviously, but you didn't really have a lot of that veteran presence there.
Yeah.
Now you kind of get that with Duvall, and that helps tremendously, I believe. So, and again, home run wise, I mean, he only played 90 games, I believe, a little bit over 90 games, and he had 21 homers. So the power's still there. I haven't looked at the splits. I didn't see what he did coming back from that injury, but just the fact that 20 homers in 90 games shows you the power is still there. And I'm not sure what the injury was. It was a wrist injury, was it not?
Yeah, it was a wrist injury. So I've got some more detailed numbers. A wrist injury over the course of the whole season. What you pointed out, the pre and post is something that a lot of fans are going to want to dig deeper into. But in total, 247 batting average. I've got him down for a 834 OPS, which a guy like Adam Duvall, like that makes sense. He's got 303, 531 in that, 21 homers, and a 116 WRC plus. So, I mean, this is a guy that, and Logan, you tell me, like, if I'm being wishful thinking here. We've seen it, and I'm sad Jesse Chavez is not in a Braves uniform, although he might be in July.
He will be.
But there's something to say about the comfortability of a situation of a guy getting back around a locker room that he feels good with, around coaching staffs that know him, know his craft, that can help unlock things. It's worked for Jesse Chavez as a Brave throughout his career. Like, he has gone elsewhere and he has been bad. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. He comes to Atlanta, he's more comfortable. The chemistry's there. Like, folks forget, because we do talk about numbers, WRC plus, all these different types of things where people are like, oh, it's analytical. Let me look at this computer and spit out data. These guys are humans. And so I think I'm not expecting Duvall to go hit 35 home runs and 110 RBIs. I don't think anyone should else do that either. But I think it's a guy who's going to perform well because he's comfortable in Atlanta. Look, when we got him back from Miami at the deadline, that run in 2021. I mean, he was okay in Miami. He comes up and he's, for a spurt, Duvall has shown he's a guy that can help carry offense. Now I'm talking about maybe a week here, a week there. And bottom line, you're talking about the 8th, 9th guy in the lineup too. Like, you're not asked to be a middle of the order bat right now if you're Adam Duvall.
Absolutely. And I've got the numbers pulled up here because the splits are very, very interesting. So March and April, only plays 8 games before getting hurt. He goes 15 of 33 to start the season. Oh my God. 10 extra base hits, by the way. 15 hits, 10 extra base hits, 5 doubles, 1 triple.
This is essentially, by the way, in 2 weeks of games, right?
Yeah. 8 games.
Seriously. 8 games, so a week and a half.
Exactly. So he doesn't play in May, comes back in June, hits only 167, strikes out 22 times, and 60 at-bats, 68 plate appearances. 10 hits, only 1 homer in that span. July, he starts to heat up a little bit, hits 246 that month with 4 homers. August, he was red hot. Played 26 games in August. He hit 304, had 9 homers that month, 8 doubles, 21 RBI. And then ends the season, final 20 games of the season, hits just $150. Adam Duvall is a weird player. And I think last season just kind of shows that too. But I mean, again, I think what you're looking for out of Adam Duvall, he's going to be, I believe, 30. He is 35. He's going to be, he's going to turn 36 before the end of the season. So obviously the age is up there, but what you're looking for from someone like Adam Duvall, and you saw it last year, he was very, very good in spurts. He showed flashes of power that's still there. So this is a guy that, yes, you look at the nostalgia of the past, couple years whenever he was in a Braves uniform. But even beyond that, this is a guy that could contribute right now.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you mentioned with Duvall, like, remember when Boston signed him and stuck him in center field? Atlanta's not doing that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, Atlanta's not doing that. Like, this is a guy who is going to, and I believe I've got his splits right here against lefties. In his career, 232, around a 770 OPS against lefties, it looks like, in his career, and with a 100 WRC plus. He can play all 3 outfield positions, Logan.
Yeah.
But when you talk about it, and you and I cover football, so we know, around this time of the year, we're talking spring football. We're talking about how do you replace those snaps, that snap count. Okay, when you look at the Braves and you take it into baseball terms, I'm thinking at-bats. Ronald Acuna and Michael Harris are not going to surrender a ton of at-bats over the course of 162, knock on wood, without an injury. I mean, that's just, if they're healthy, they're playing. These 2 guys are under 27 years old. Acuna's 26, and you mentioned Harris entering his prime. The guy's still pre-prime. Like, Ronald Acuna is kind of just starting to enter his prime. Just a nuts concept to think about. But those 2 guys are not going to give up a lot of ABs. So with Kelenic, and we'll get to Kelenic here in a second specifically, you're going to platoon him. Maybe Kelenic is just, maybe he doesn't have it, and you have to, start Duvall for a week or 2. Duvall can do that. Like, he's able to do that and carry his weight against that. Maybe if an injury occurs, now you don't have to put in, Jordan Luplow or Eli White, who are probably the 2 biggest casualties of this move in terms of a roster spot. Now you can just throw in Adam Duvall, knowing, hey, this is what we've got over here. This guy, once again, the familiarity aspect for me is the biggest one, and I think it's something that people just discount and they just discredit.
Yeah.
When they think of stuff like this, like that stuff matters. So, any final remarks on Duvall before we kind of move on to Kelenic?
Yeah, you shared the splits, and it's very interesting to me because if the Braves are considering him as a platoon, last year Duvall was actually better, and I know, again, limited sample size. He didn't have a lot of at bats against.
So it was less than 400 at bats last year, I believe.
Yeah, in total. I mean, against lefties, he only had 93 plate appearances, but he struck out at a higher rate against lefties than he did against righties. And he hit better against righties last season. And again, small sample size, only 93 plate appearances against lefties. But if you want to bring him in as a platoon, you would kind of hope that maybe he would have better numbers against lefties last season. But as you mentioned, I still think it's a great addition because of just all the reasons that you just talked about.
Yeah, no, it's a Adam Duvall is going to quickly become like Kelly Johnson. Remember him? The Braves got him like 3 or 4 different times. Jesse Chavez obviously fits that bill of like a guy that just keeps coming back to Atlanta. And there's been quite a couple players of the past decade and a half that just like seemingly find their way back. And the funniest thing on social media is when people are like, "Oh, look at this graphic I made of what Adam Duvall would look like in a Braves uniform." It's hilarious. It's good stuff. So it's a guy that's familiar. Let's talk about Kelenic though, because we've mentioned him kind of in passing when we talked about this lineup, Logan, when we talked about this roster. You look at his spring stats. Not a lot to write home about. He is batting .088. He's played in 12 games, 34 ABs, just 3 hits, 3 total bases. So I believe that to be the fact that he has had 3 singles. So no extra base hits, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 9 punch-outs. An OPS, Logan, of 272 in 12 spring training games. Now, listen, as much as we are going to glorify, we're going to love certain spring stats, aka Chris Sale, who was good again today, really good again today. You also have to take with a grain of salt those, but also take with a grain of salt. Like we're gonna look at this the same way of what Kelenic does. There's been guys that have struggled in spring and tore it up in the months of April and May.
Right.
I tend to believe that they are working on, and this is more of Logan. Maybe it's just more of my fan view here. They're working on his swing. He's recreating, reinventing himself. And Atlanta and the folks inside AA's office and that roundtable discussion, they know, hey, this is a process. And we invested money into this. We want to see this thing through. This kid's 23, 24 years old, I think. And it's going to be a process, and let's go let him figure it out as the 9-hole hitter on this team. I'm cool with that. I don't think Kelenic's future in Atlanta is necessarily like, oh, it's over, it's done. I just think this is a dose of realism of saying, hey, we were going to be lucky if he just kind of made these changes and was able to do this like right off the bat. He hasn't, kind of expected. Let's go get a veteran to come help him. But how do you feel about Kelenic during the spring? And are you buying into, he's not going to be a real piece for a playoff roster?
Well, and again, I think it was always unrealistic to look at Jarred Kelenic joining another team and immediately fixing every single problem that he had at the plate. Because I mean, look at the numbers last year. I mean, strikeouts were a major problem. If you want to find the silver lining in these spring training stats, it's the fact that his strikeout percentage is super low. In fact, if he carries the strikeout percentage the rest of this season, which right now is it's under 21%.
Yeah,
it would be the lowest of his career. Which is, if you want to look at it that way, and again, small sample size, right? But yeah, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And I think, again, you look at the investment that Anthopoulos made into Jarred Kelenic, and it was always a risky move. But I don't think you can grade whether he's going to be, part of a postseason roster or part of this team. I do think that he is going to play a pretty big role later this season. I think the biggest thing to watch for is how he develops over the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And then again in the second half, because if you just look at spring training and you overreact and say, oh my gosh, like this guy sucks, why do we go trade for him? I think it's just way too early to say that. And again, I know he hasn't lived up to the billing in his career yet. I know that things have not gone his way, but I mean, we just talked about it with Adam Duvall. I mean, Duvall was once a highly regarded prospect too, and he didn't immediately develop into the all-star that he eventually became, right? Yeah. So again, I'm not out on Kelenic quite yet. I'm not panicking. I do think it's like you said that they are tweaking some things about his swing, and I can't help but think about Matt Olson as well, right? The Brave staff did a similar thing with Matt Olson, and everyone saw the results it yielded. I'm not saying that Jarred Kelenic is going to put up Matt Olson numbers. Don't hear what I'm not saying.
Yeah, no. I mean, and look, some people will, and I get that.
Yeah,
a couple other just of note here. So I was looking at some of his batted ball rates, and this is really getting into some of the analytical stuff.
Yeah.
This is a guy over the course of his career, 82% of the time, 82.3% of the time, Logan, he is hitting at either a medium hard hit rate or a hard hit rate. His soft contact rate over the course of his career averages out to 17.7%. So, and that's just through three major league seasons, but it's a guy who hits the ball hard. Like, that's one thing that they're going to be looking at. And I guarantee you this staff looked at is like, hey, he's going to hit the ball hard if eventually those balls are going to find green grass. Like, that's the idea that you're working with. If you're not hitting and not squaring the ball up a lot, that's a fundamental issue that you kind of got to go back to the drawing board. So that's an encouraging sign. And then when you look at 2024, just within the scope of the spring training, once again, tiny sample size.
Right.
He's pulling the ball 65.2% of the time. He's going oppo 26.1. He's just going into kind of the middle of the field, 8.7%. Typically, on average, over the course of his major and minor league career, it's been 39% pull, 37% center, 23% oppo. So he's a guy that's going to stay middle of the field to the right side as a left-handed hitter. Look, those numbers eventually going to even out. Baseball, you read the back of the baseball card, that's usually the kind of player you're going to get, I think, with Kelenic. So I agree with you. I'm not in panic mode. I think a lot of fans are like, oh gosh, the Jarred Kelenic, you get on some social media, and we share our shows through different avenues and mediums. And people, like, I've had some people comment of like, the Braves got fleeced. Well, and I never wish this upon anybody. I don't know if you saw this, Logan. The two guys, or did you send this to me?
I think you did. Sent it to me.
The two guys Atlanta traded for Kelenic are having Tommy John this year. Yeah. One of the guys is on his second Tommy John surgery.
Right.
So,
didn't the Braves acquire one of those guys from the Royals too?
Maybe they did.
Because I think it was a Kowar, right?
Jackson Kowar, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like they got him from the Royals. So I felt like they knew the history that was already there. I could be dead wrong on that, though. I don't know if he was the one that...
No, you're not. He was the first-round pick by the Royals in 2018. Okay. And I believe Atlanta got him for...
I cannot remember.
Oh, Kyle Wright. That was the Kyle Wright trade.
It was the Kyle Wright trade. Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so if I tell you this, age 24 season, Fangraphs projections is this, okay? Their projection of Jarred Kelenic in 2024, we're talking about the right field spot for the Atlanta Braves, the 8 or 9 hole in this lineup. They've got him going 15 homers, 59 runs scored, 70 RBIs, 139 strikeouts. That'd be around a 28.3% strikeout rate. 239 average and a 725 OPS. If you pair that with Duvall potentially hitting 10 to 15 homers, you have 30 home run, projection out there. And I don't think that's a far-fetched concept, Adam Duvall hitting 15 homers this year.
Well, and look at it, compare it to last season, right? I mean, last season the left fielders were Kevin Pillar and Eddie Rosario. I feel like, to me, you would take the combination of Jarred Kelenic and Adam Duvall if those were the numbers 10 times out of 10, right?
Well, once people can get past, and I hated to say this, that the Eddie Rosario in 2023, look, the Eddie Rosario we saw in the 2020 playoffs, that's folklore. Like, that's like talking about Paul Bunyan and the Big Blue Ox, type of stuff. Like that is, that's like, we'll always love that. That's not who he is from April to September. You know what I mean? That's just not who he is. So I agree with you. And why wouldn't you want to have this more? We love Adam Duvall, but the upside of Kelenic plays more. Like, that's what I like about it. Mm-hmm. Now, I do believe Eddie Rosario. I don't know if you saw the signing. I think you sent that to me too. To Washington. Yeah. He's gonna hit a big homer against Atlanta at some point.
Oh, like that's going to happen.
That's happening. But I agree with you. The upside of Kelenic, it's there. It's just up to this staff to figure it out. And for the 8-9, Logan, we're arguing about not you and I, but we're talking about There's 26 active spots on a roster. You're talking about like the 22nd player. Like in all realism. Like this is a platoon player, your ninth batter in the lineup.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big deal.
Well, and you mentioned the barrel rate, hard hit percentage, and all that stuff, and that got me curious about so many different things. And if you want to look at StatHead and not StatHead, Baseball Savant, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, and again, this is super nerd analytics here, and I'm very, very sorry in advance. But this is this is WOBA and ex-WOBA, right?
Yeah.
So look, how they determine if a player is unlucky is they subtract those two numbers, WOBA from ex-WOBA.
Mm-hmm.
Jarred Kelenic statistically is the unluckiest hitter in baseball. Now, again, strikeouts are a major issue, but this is practically saying when he's putting the ball in play, more than likely he's getting unlucky based on how hard he's hitting the ball. And I think this is among left-handed hitters too, by the way, just so you know.
I'm looking at Baseball Savant. Is that what you're looking at right now?
Yes. If
I'm not mistaken, Logan, going back to that, yeah, his barrel rate's in the 59th percentile. His average exit velocity is in the 75th percentile. Mm-hmm. Like if they can figure this out, you're talking about a guy that was one of the top prospects in the game. Like,
right.
This is a guy who's not far removed from being not being I mean, he was the centerpiece of that trade of why Seattle sent back Cano and Edwin Diaz.
Yeah. And this is going back from 2021, by the way. Since when Jarred Kelenic entered the league, all the way up until now. And if you take away the left-handed hitting hitters, because I for some reason just had that on left-handed hitters, Kelnic's still number one in that category. Number two is Marcell Ozuna.
So the Braves have two of the unluckiest hitters in baseball.
Yeah, and Ronald Acuna is number 6.
Ronald Acuna is number 6, and he won the MVP last year.
Yeah, essentially.
Folks, this is why we're just telling you, baseball is 162 games.
Right.
Do not freak out over the first series.
Yeah,
don't do it.
I mean, you remember the Phillies series too, right? It legitimately felt like. And correct me if I'm wrong or misremembering this, but it seemed like every time the Braves put the ball in play, it was a rocket right at somebody.
Dude, they were killing the baseball.
Yeah, that's just the way baseball goes sometimes. And you gotta think, regression to the mean, right? Like that's if you're in analytics, like that's the phrase that you're hoping applies to Jarred Kelenic in this particular case.
Yeah, man, I'm not super worried. Like, I think that's the only thing I can say on it. I'm not super worried about it. I love the signing of Adam Duvall, and I think it's going to be something for Atlanta that they can turn around and say, okay, we have a veteran that understands what we want to do, understands what we're about, understands that locker room, is familiar with those guys already. Because you talk about, too, entering with 2 weeks left of spring training, it's hard to get ramped up, hard to build chemistry. Duvall's going to walk in and be like, "Oh, what's up, guys?" Like it's not going to be any different for him. I mean, he knows where stuff in the locker room is. Like, he knows where the bathroom is. Like, folks just don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, and it matters. Like, these guys are humans, and when you can realize that, and realize being comfortable in a situation, and also realize too that like you're talking about one of the best run organizations. Regardless of how many titles they win under this regime. Like, it's one of the best run organizations of the past 20, 25 years. Like, it's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah. I just can't, I'm laughing at the analysis of he knows where the bathroom is. I mean, that's worth plus one more right there.
I said that because I was talking with a former guy that was a kind of, bounced around between the majors and minors. And I said, like, talk about organization and like why you decided to go here. Because I think for fans, they're like, why did you decide to do this? Because sometimes you see that. Like, a guy decides to sign somewhere where he's maybe more comfortable over a money or an opportunity. Like Jesse Chavez has done that the past couple of years, knowing that he was going to have to come in the past couple springs and earn a spot with Atlanta. Now, he decided to go to Chicago, whatever, but like that one year he decided to come back. It's like, yeah, like they featured him on the daggum behind the Braves. They're not featuring any other minor league contract guys like that. Like, they know what they have in Jesse Chavez. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Duvall does. It's going to be fun. He's a fan favorite. I'm just not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I don't think you are either. And he knows where the bathroom is. And that's one of the most important things that you need to know. Where's the bathroom and where is the soft serve ice cream machine? Because they did get one of those in the Atlanta Braves locker room. And that's great.
They're all about fun now.
All about fun. Let's have fun. Did you hear? Oh, it was an article. I think David O'Brien wrote it as we round out the show. That an inspirational conversation. Oh, it was the article on Michael Harris in the Athletic. I don't know if you read it.
I don't think I have.
You need to read it. Go check it out if you haven't already. An inspirational conversation from Marcelo Zuna helped spark his turnaround. And I just want to say this. We're not getting political. We don't want to get political. But what I do want to say is that, like, whatever the public perception of some of these players might be due to what they have done or may have not done on and off the field, your perception from section 112, row 36, seat 12 is not more important than the guy that's in the locker room or the two lockers down. They love Marcelo Zuna and they value that. And I think it fits more into the narrative of Anthopoulos knows what he's doing. That doesn't mean you're going to win a World Series every single year, but there's a reason they've had back-to-back 100-win seasons. There's a reason guys want to come play in Atlanta. Like there's a reason these guys signed these contracts, not because they're getting a gun held to their head. Like, it's like, this is a fun place to play. And I just think that was a cool little piece. So go check that article out. Yeah. But yeah, Adam Duvall back with Atlanta and knows where the bathroom is. Jarred Kelenic still needs to figure out where the bathroom is at Truist Park. And maybe once he gets that, we're going to see him just that potential oozing out. It'll be I'm really mad that I just used a bathroom reference and then said oozing out. So I think that's all we're going to do for today.
Only the best analytics on the crowded.
Only the best. Only the best. Chopaholic Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe over here on YouTube. If you're listening after the fact on whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you might be getting this content, make sure you head over there. And the www.crowdedbooth.com, little site that we've put together, newsletter action that goes out. Cranking out content and excited for you all to continue to be a part of that. You can sign up for free or support us in any way you would like there as well. He's Logan Whaley. My name's Bryce Koon, and we'll catch you next time here on the Chopaholic, brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.